And welcome to Hashtag General, where at the time of recording, this is easily one of the top 3 shows we've ever made. With me, of course, is Chris Akamura, and I am Logan Studley. Are you ready to just dive in?
That was pretty good. Not gonna lie.
I was practicing all week.
Can appreciate that.
Yeah, you know, that I figure I should put some more effort into my work. And by more effort, I mean some effort.
What are we covering today, by the way? I have no idea. Speaking of effort.
I share the note with you every week.
No, I know. I'm joking.
Whatever. No, so let's start off with football because of the Super Bowl, which is probably something you're like, wait, we're going to cover this?
I'm surprised you're going to cover this.
I didn't watch the game.
Okay. It was very boring.
I heard it was very boring. I was playing video games and I go, hey Siri, what's the score of the Super Bowl? And it's like, the score is tied 3-3 at the end of the third quarter. And I'm like, I made the right decision by playing video games instead of watching the Super Bowl. But
my phone also just answered you just said, hey Siri, what's the Super Bowl? So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
If anyone still uses their Xbox One, Xbox on or Xbox off, and you're welcome.
Oh man, we should start using Dingus or Object or whatever for stuff like that. God. Anyway, my favorite thing about the Super Bowl was did you see the New Orleans, I think it's the Times-Picayune, front page the day after,
No.
So Monday? Literally, if you should go check this out. Go to their website and check it out. Basically, their front page above the fold was blank except for the words Super Bowl, what Super Bowl? Because they were still A, pissed about the Rams beating them, and B, what Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was a boring game. A little disappointing as a an LA person, but a little sad. But yeah, it's just a boring game all around. Neither team really came out strong, but overall, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, no, I happened across that on Monday, and I just was laughing. Apparently, they had planned that. Like, they had already locked it in on Thursday as just, their own little protest of...
Sure.
Because apparently New Orleans just, as a town, just didn't recognize the Super Bowl happened and had their own little celebration. So they had already planned that. It's just the Super Bowl happened to, help them make the point even better.
Right.
So
unless you're the Benson family, and then in which case you definitely know it's super. So you're not a sports person. Do you know what's going on with the Lakers and
No, I have no idea what's going on.
You'll find this funny, and I find it very not funny because I'm a huge Laker fan, right? So the Benson family owns both the Saints and the Pelicans, so the basketball team and the football team in New Orleans. So New Orleans Pelicans, their basketball team, have Anthony Davis, who's this 25-year-old superstar, probably the second best player in the league, right? And he just signed on with Clutch Sports, which is LeBron James's best friend's agency, right?
Yeah.
So they both signed to Clutch. So long story short, the rumor was that LeBron wanted to try to get Anthony Davis onto the Lakers, and that they were going to kind of use leverage there. And then, so Anthony Davis requested a trade and gave them a list of teams that he'd be interested in signing a long-term deal with. Because obviously you wouldn't trade him to a team, or a team wouldn't trade for him that he wouldn't sign a deal with.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So all of the teams on the list
aren't LA.
Well, one of them is the Lakers, and the other 3 teams are teams that have not reason to trade for him, but they have no assets to give to him.
So basically, he's saying trade me to LA.
Right. So Magic Johnson, of course, being the businessman he is, pretty much offered the farm to like. We offered him. So we have what's known as a young core, which is like all of our young players that are top young prospects in the league. So we offered him like 5 or 6 of those guys
For him?
and 2 draft picks.
Oh God.
So for Anthony Davis, because again, he's like
Number 2.
well, he's one of the best players in the league, and he's only 25.
Oh, so
he's
you can have him for a while.
for like the next decade, right? So that's like a huge deal. So we offered that, and apparently the Pelicans leaked all this stuff to the public, or leaked it to journalists and stuff like that. And so it was a long going talk. It was like a week long of like all our young guys being in trade talks, and our young guys kind of playing like they were kind of discouraged a little, right? And so it finally came out that the Benson family and sort of the Pelicans organization as a whole leaked it all on purpose, and we're never going to trade him to us. He's still on the Pelicans. The trade deadline's passed. Like you can't be traded anymore for this season. But they basically wanted to leak everything to discourage our young players and not kind of ruin the chemistry that we had. Try to attempt to ruin the chemistry that we had. On top of get LA back
for the Super Bowl.
Right.
Oh my God!
Because again, they own both the Saints and the Pelicans, so they have skin in the game.
So
here.
they could.
They have very ill will towards the city of LA right now, which I think it's petty. I think it's dumb.
Yes, it is petty and it's dumb, but
whatever.
Such is life.
Well, that's the sports of the day.
Yeah. And that's it for sports.
Right. That's like more sports than I expected to talk about here today.
That's more sports than I probably talked about in years.
That's why I didn't expect to talk about it.
Okay. So let's move on, James. Let's move on to tech. So apparently someone has proposed a law in Hawaii where in order to access porn sites, you have to pay a one-time $20 fee.
Right.
And my immediate thought when I saw that was, this will last 15 minutes until a 14-year-old boy figures out a way around it.
Right, just take your mom's credit card or something like that.
Well,
right?
not even just like take the mom's credit card. That's the easy way. Someone's going to figure out like a technical way around it. It's either going to be like a VPN or something.
Some kind of proxy server.
Some proxy where it's just like the moment I just saw that and I was like, this isn't going to do anything.
But I mean like it goes back to the thing of like on a more serious topic like gun laws, right? Of just like more hoops to jump through, right? Like someone's always going to figure out a way around it.
Yeah.
It's just giving them more hoops to jump through, making it a little more difficult, right? You're not going to stop everyone, but...
No, it just... I happened to see that and was just like, guys, this is... Do you not get how this is going to work?
Yeah, I think it's dumb, but whatever.
All it's going to take... Like, to create the registry of all the websites that you would need to pay to unlock, you're going to be in a constant losing game of people just buying new domains.
Right.
And then
a new porn site pops up like every day.
Yeah, it's like it's a no-win scenario.
What's your job? I'm the Hawaiian porn blocker. What do? I surf the internet for porn and block them on this VPN.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah,
it's
until you look at it every moment of every day.
It's like the guys that sit there and train algorithms to look for dick pics and block them.
Oh God, yeah, it's like. It's one of those things where people will be like, oh, that sounds cool. And then you think about, wait, that would be my life.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
It would be horrible. Like, I would not want that job.
No.
But anyway, in other tech news, the big thing that happened a couple weeks ago was, did you hear about the Facebook app that Apple blocked?
No.
Okay, so to give you all a kind of a short rundown of what happened is Apple prohibits apps from gleaning certain data from your software or from the phone.
Sure.
It's just blocked on the App Store. So if you do any app that does something like that, Apple will remove it because it violates their terms and conditions of the App Store. So you can't
Google Play Store.
Google Play doesn't have the same restrictions, but on the App Store, if you were trying to be like, hey, I want all your data, like every website you visit, all your location data, everything, Apple just blocks it. Right. It's like, that's a no, it won't happen. However, Facebook found a loophole. And that was Apple's developer program, to where there's an enterprise program that Apple does where large companies like, say, IBM, Google, Facebook, Microsoft can basically have their own app store where they can create their own internal apps for beta testing. So like betas of Instagram, of the next Facebook app, or even like Facebook's lunch menu, to where you can order your lunch, was like an in-system Facebook exclusive app. And the only way you can get it is to have it be given to you by Facebook. And it is limited to only like Facebook employees or whatever company you're at. But a lot of those restrictions about what data is getting gleaned by the app don't exist in the developer program, because in beta testing, you might need to know that info.
Right.
So what does Facebook do? They violate the terms of the developer program, and they start to distribute this app where they were paying people, kids as young as 13 up to the age of, and then adults up to, I believe, the age of 30 or 35. They're paying them $20 a month to sideload this app outside of the App Store and run it on their phones, to where they can get all the information. Which, they weren't Facebook employees, so Facebook was in violation of Apple's developer program. Apple blocked their developer license. So all of Facebook's internal programming and everything just got shut down by Apple. They basically were like, no, you're in violation of our developer deal. It's done. Google apparently had done the same thing and trying to get out of the whole debacle, because TechCrunch had run a huge expose about how Facebook was trying to hide the fact that they were the one running the app, how Facebook, what all the data Facebook was wanting to get, which was pretty much everything. Like any website, if you were on this program, pretty much anything you did on the phone, Facebook was aware of it. And they were even having people send them screenshots of like Amazon purchases. Like they wanted every bit of detail they can get. And Google comes out and says, oh, hey, we're doing the same thing with our own program. So last week, Apple literally had shut down the developer accounts for both Google and for Facebook, to where their entire internal development builds were just blocked. Like you could hit the app and it wouldn't open. And so a lot of people were freaking out, because there's two sides of the freak out that I noticed. There were people going, hey, Apple shouldn't have the ability to shut down a developer account and just be gone. They're like, that's a little too much power. My concern was more of the, what the hell are they doing trying to they're going to 13-year-old kids and being like, hey, I want to know everything. And I've always felt like I personally have struggled trying to explain to people how dangerous this stuff is, because they oftentimes, I hear the whole, well, I have nothing to hide, so well, they might as well look. They already have the data. Privacy, I don't remember where, and I should look this up, but it was a privacy expert had said a thing of, you sit there and you say, oh, I have nothing to hide. But you know how a lot of people, you might have multiple email accounts. You might have an email account that you use for, say, certain adult proclivities. I want that email. And that's the thing where I'd say it's kind of this big crazy thing, is it wasn't just, oh, hey, what websites are you going to? It's everything you did. And why is that legal? That's my real question, is why isn't this, like, why isn't the government saying, hey, guys, you can't do this?
Like, okay, so I have a very different viewpoint on it. In terms of, I have a very kind of utopian viewpoint of tech, where I'm very happy to give up data, and very happy to say, like, you can have everything. Like, again, not in the argument of I have nothing to hide, but in the thing of, if my data can help me or help you build a better experience, or build a better sort of tailor-made experience for me and my needs, right? If you have good intentions of just, like, data is data, right? And you just want information to help build the platform the best you can, and sort of, again, build and tailor-make stuff to whatever consumer thing that you're doing. Dude, by all means, take my data, go for it. Like, that's fine. But again, I'm assuming that they have good intentions. I'm assuming that that there's no, like, malicious intent here, right? And then also I'm assuming that, they're not gonna they're not going to sell it or give it to someone that does have ill intentions, right?
Yeah.
And so like there's a lot of assumptions that I'm going through to make that decision. But again, I think that I should be able to do that, and they should be able to accept that from me. But I need to be able to opt in and like openly say like, yes, take all my data, right? Like I don't think them doing it in the background is anything good.
Yeah, I think it's the whole malicious intent thing.
Right.
And I think Facebook has proven it isn't malicious as much as it's
somewhat creepy.
It's incredibly creepy.
Right.
But there's also it's not malicious, but there's like this it's like a benign intent. Their whole thought is if we can get all the data, that way, data's great, we can do it. Right. But the problem is it can be easily exploited, and they don't ever. There seems to be this disconnect in Facebook over, hey, we have access to this data, we should actually protect that. And you can then go into like ProPublica had a thing, I think it was a year ago, it might have been sooner than that, where they were able to, by using certain keywords on Facebook advertising, they were able to target an ad specifically at neo-Nazis.
Right.
Because of just the data Facebook gleans, because they want to gather everything. And there's a point in advertising where I can see that's kind of helpful, having my age range, where I live, certain things like that, certain interests. Yeah, I kind of can see how that can help you make a better platform to where everything is aimed at me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be able to follow me around the internet to every place I go, to every place I visit, and to look at everything I do and have that data. Like, why, when I leave Facebook's website, I don't think Facebook should be able to follow me. And the problem is, and this is the thing that people don't realize, is if you are logged into your Facebook account, it's following you everywhere. If you go to any website that has a share this on Facebook link, Facebook has followed you to that website. They know who you are, what account you're on, and everything. So if you are logged in on the same page that you're watching, I don't know, Pornhub, Facebook knows what you just looked at.
Yeah.
And
but dude, like, again, it goes to the same thing of like, hey, if I log into Pornhub and like it suggests to me, like, that's exactly what I want to see. Like, this is great. I don't have to parse through millions and millions of videos, right? So like, but again, it's just easy. Like for me, it's just ease of use and a tailor-made experience, right? And things of. Yeah, and it just makes my life easier, right? And so I'm very happy to give that all away. And like, I have no problem with the idea of Facebook following me around is a little different. I view it more of, again, if I'm opting in, saying like, hey, here's my data, go for it, right? Like I'd rather have I'd rather it be that way, right? Where it's I have my data and I can choose to give it. I can give them like pamphlets, or like, like a president when he wakes up in the morning and he's given like a breakdown of like, here's all the happenings in the country of the day, right? Yeah. Like I can give that information to like. Well, I can have a debriefing meeting right in the morning of like, here's all my shit.
Well, there's two levels to that, because, and I think you can say it's almost like the design ethos of, say, Apple compared to Google and Facebook. It's Apple with some of their tech, they can go through like your text messages and all that stuff to like better focus your thing. Like if you and I were having a conversation in a text message on our two iPhones about a restaurant like we wanted to go to, I might pull up something on my phone and it's going to suggest that restaurant. Right. The thing is, all that stuff is either exclusive to my phone, or if there's anything in the cloud, it's encrypted and no one at Apple has access to it. And that doesn't exist at Google or Facebook.
Right. That's a little different.
Like that's where I think the thing is. Sure. It's not that I don't want a tailor-made experience or to have my devices or my computer learn from me to better understand how I want things to operate. But there's a difference when some rando at Facebook, Google, or if you hear the stories about what the NSA would do, where they would sit there and they would look through people's text messages, just see if they could find like dirty pictures or stuff like that. Right. That's a point where we've crossed a line, and that's where I'm like, where I would like to see something stating, here's what the data you can keep, here's how long you can keep it, here's how you can have access to it, and oh, by the way, it needs to be encrypted.
Sure.
Like if there was some, and that's the problem is it isn't that we're giving them the data, is that there's no safeguard on that data for who gets it, who can use it, and who can exploit it.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why Facebook's been in so much hot water over things like the 2016 election is there was no protection.
Right. Well, again, to me, it comes down to, and again, it's a very kind of, I think, abstract way of looking at it. Of like, to me, and I view it again. It's maybe naive. It's maybe stupid, but my thing is just like data is data, and like when I think of Facebook looking at my data, I think of it not as one guy looking through my shit.
Yeah.
I see it more as a big company looking through millions of people's stuff to just see how they can correlate and make the machine learning better or the AI better or however else they're figuring it out, right? And making it a better experience for me. So I'm happy to give that data away.
Yeah, I think it's
just how you view it.
It's how you view it, and I think a lot of it is that Facebook has been so data-driven that they haven't stopped to ask why do we need this specific set of data?
Right. But
as much as they are like, oh, we can get this data, let's
Right.
get it. They don't think beyond the fact they can get it.
And having been someone that's worked in data collection and like with statistics, after a while, like you lose track of like there's no bad data to have ever. And you know this, like there's no such thing as like we don't need this. It's you can always use more data, right? And so I think Facebook is in that mode of, again, it's not whether it's right or wrong, and they're not. I don't see them as a maybe individually, but like maybe as a company, I don't see them saying like, "Ooh, this is like good dirt," or like this is like they're not like the creepy guy down the street looking through the window, right? But it's more of just like here's like good data that we can have that we can use to make this platform better.
Yeah.
I think that's how they're viewing it as a company, and maybe it's getting a little construed.
I think it's the fact that it might not be malicious, but they're not being good stewards of the data.
No.
And I think that's what it comes down to. What makes it creepy and weird is that Facebook, first off, when you go back to the Apple thing, not only did they violate the terms of the agreement with Apple, and by the way, just so if you never followed this, Apple and Google and Facebook have all like resolved it. The apps that Google and Facebook are running were shut down, and Apple basically gave them new licenses with like a stern warning of don't do this again. Because, again, they violated the terms and conditions of Apple's developer deal. But it's the fact that they hid it was Facebook. Like, if you went through it, by the time that you could go and see anything that said it was Facebook, I think TechCrunch discovered the first time you saw any instance of it was after you had already signed an NDA stating that you wouldn't talk about the program.
Yeah.
To where it's, as much as Facebook might not have malicious intent, they are definitely aware enough of that there is a problem, that they're obscuring their involvement, which means on some level you have to wonder
for what reason.
What reason are you doing this?
Agreed.
I guess what it comes down to. By the way, the first time we're streaming on Facebook, get off Facebook.
Yeah, we are trying to stream on Facebook today, so that's great timing for that.
It's like my whole thing is it's got to the point where with my Facebook page, anything I share on there is something that I have shared publicly on the internet in some way.
Sure.
To where as far as it's been, at least for the past few years, there's nothing on there that hasn't either been tweeted, shared on my website, shared to YouTube, or shared wherever, to where I've already publicly declared that thing to where anyone can find it anywhere. And it's just, I think that's a good mindset when it comes to a lot of these social media outlets, is don't think of it as this is my Facebook page and my personal stuff. We need to start, I at least have come to the conclusion of I need to at least start thinking of it as this is something I'm okay with everyone in the world knowing. Right.
No, I totally agree with that.
I think until that shift happens, where for most people, I just say people need to be a little bit more aware of how Facebook follows you, where it can follow you, and just be aware that your data, if you think you have privacy, you really don't right now.
No, I don't think. And my thing is, even before all this stuff started to come out, even going back like years and years ago, if you're using social media as a private thing, that's not, if you're posting on Facebook, Twitter, anything, like publicly posting and you're thinking it's private, I'm sorry, that's a very naive way of thinking about it.
Because even if you have a locked account,
right,
all it takes is someone who has access to that account,
right,
screenshotting it.
Right. So like the only thing, and I think people kind of keep it to heart is like DMs are like sacred. DMs and private messages are sacred, right? Like no one shares those, and like normally unless there's like some kind of debacle or some kind of problem within those statements, then those get shared. But otherwise, I think there's people are pretty safe about like those are private, those are us, right?
No,
but if you post anything, like dude, that's free game. Don't. But
like that's the thing is posting's free game. But when you're going to like the DM thing, again, that was something Facebook had access to,
right?
Fully, and that's what I mean by you don't realize how much detail Facebook has and has full access to, and it's unencrypted. Your Facebook messages aren't private,
right?
That was something that happened like a few months ago where it turned out Facebook had been giving private companies access to people's messaging or Facebook Messenger, and it was just because they didn't think, oh, hey, we shouldn't do that. It's there. Right. It's like
part of me thinks that Facebook is like a very naive nerd. Where they're just like, this data's cool. Do you want to share this data? Data's good for everyone. Hey, company, you need data?
Yeah.
Oh, let me share this with you. And it's not. I don't see it as malicious. I see it as very naive.
It's incredibly naive. And what's really interesting is a lot of the companies when that broke, and there were some pretty prominent companies, like I think Starbucks had access to people's Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
And they're like, we didn't even know we had access to that. We never used it. But they're like, it was like kind of hinted in some articles that there were people at those companies that were like, why did we have access to that?
Right.
And so that's the thing where I say people need to be more cautious and more aware of their privacy is all it takes is one company not noticing they have access to it and not having the scruples of being like, we don't need this.
Right.
And it's out. So I guess just be safe on the internet, kids. That's it. Be safe on the internet, kids. All right, let's move on. All right, James, you ready? Let's go to movies. He's moved now. I can't see him. We had this whole talk last week about remodeling the kitchen. Now
it needs to happen.
And now neither one of us can see James. All right, so we talked a bit about MoviePass last time.
We have another MoviePass story?
Well, only because The Ringer had an interview where someone went to their office in LA and spoke with like the CEO.
They still have an office?
They still have an office. And what's crazy is if you are interested at all in MoviePass, first off, I've probably written and spoken too much about it, and I'm sorry. But reading this article, it was the mindset of the people running the company. It's just like the way they spoke, it was like they were blindsided by the fact that their business model wasn't smart.
Yeah.
Like they're like, yeah, we didn't realize how many people would sign up and how much money we'd spend and all this. Like they were expecting it to be like gym memberships where you sign up at the beginning of the year, you go once and then you never go again, and they collect the annual profit.
Sure.
And only to realize, no, in Los Angeles, you just have to see a movie once and it's paid for itself.
Right.
And so they had multitudes of people using it to the point where they're like, oh, these people were like the abusing the system. And it's like, no, we were using the system as it was brought as advertised. And so it's just, if you are interested at all in the MoviePass saga, link will be in the show notes. It's on the Ringer. It was one of those ones reading that article. I was like, oh my God, these guys are dumb.
Well, again, it goes back to the naivete, right? Like, it's just a thing. It's the best thing I saw again was that College Humor sketch that they did, right, where they did the CEO PSA.
Yeah,
and it really hits it on the head of like the mindset of like what it makes fun of it, and like, but it really hits the mindset of like where they're at as a company.
Yeah,
and like, man, it's sad, but kind of well deserved.
Yeah, no, it was like. I got the sense reading the article that because a lot of them were Silicon Valley outsiders, they thought they could just come in and just be like, look at us, we're disrupting everything, without realizing that, if you're going to be selling movie tickets, you probably want to partner with the movie theaters and the studios. And so apparently they are going on an apology tour around Hollywood, basically going, we're sorry. It's just like, guys, it's too little too late. AMC's launched their own service. All it's going to take is Regal launching their own service and you're gone. And
I'm amazed that they're still around.
I want to know where the money came from that they're still around. Like they should have been dead and gone and buried
year ago.
like in August. Like when that whole thing went down, where it was like, oh, by the way, we don't have the money to pay for the movie tickets, so it shut down for a weekend. The fact that they're still operating,
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
mind-blowing.
It's someone somewhere is spending way too much money to buy movie tickets for other people, and they're not going to get their money back. Like AMC and Regal and all of them are laughing on their way to the bank.
Yeah, it's done. They're done.
I just read that and I was like, oh God, I have to share this just because it's so bad.
Yeah,
But
so ridiculous.
let's go on into movie news itself. So it's now official. James Gunn is writing and directing Suicide Squad 2.
Yeah.
So they finally get the writer and director that they were imitating for
Right.
Suicide Squad.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe Suicide Squad 2 will actually be not a hot mess at the end.
I doubt it, but it's okay.
I wish him the best. But in more DC news, so Batfleck is gone.
Yeah.
So Ben Affleck is no longer Batman. Did you see who they are circling to pick up?
Is it still Gyllenhaal?
No, it's not Gyllenhaal. Robert Pattinson.
Oh, okay.
We're getting a sparkly Batman.
No, so this was the same reason they wanted Gyllenhaal, and like I'd heard from friends that worked in Warner Brothers already that this is what they wanted to do. They wanted a less brawly Batman because like Ben Affleck was a very much a brawly, like
Yeah.
fisticuffs Batman.
He was Punisher Batman.
Right. What they're going towards now is more of like the Nightcrawler-esque like detective Batman.
Okay.
So like very much more martial arts centric, more sneaking around. Like the image that that people bring up all the time that I've sort of attached to this idea is like the skinny Batman in the costume, but skinny Batman with a flashlight in his mouth and the file cabinet.
Okay.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Like that's the Batman that I'm picturing in my head.
I can see
When I
that.
picture like Gyllenhaal, which was like a talk, right, for a long time, and then of course Pattinson.
Yeah.
Same build. You could imagine that image in your head of like them wearing the cowl with a flashlight
With
in
a
their mouth
flashlight in
and,
the
like,
mouth going through.
the filing cabinet, right?
I just at the moment I saw that I'm like, oh God, I could already see all the tweets. Like I said, sparkly Batman.
right.
Like it's
It could be cool. I have very little faith in anything DC at this point. And
Yeah.
and not so much DC, but Warner Brothers. Anything Warner Brothers, I'm very like skeptical of. So
yeah, it's because Pattinson has been since Twilight. He's been trying. I feel like it's like DiCaprio post Titanic, where
trying to break that.
trying to just got typecast into this idea where it was DiCaprio was Jack from Titanic,
Right.
and he needed to be able to break out of that before he get departed with Scorsese. And I feel like Pattinson, because he's done like Cronenberg and other like smaller films with more prominent directors, that he's trying to like be like, hey, look, I am more than a guy who sparkles and was in one of the Harry Potters.
Right.
So I'm interested to see what he brings to Batman, but the moment I saw that, I was just like, ooh, I can see this being like the thing everyone chews on until it comes out.
Remember, everyone
knocked Batfleck though.
I knocked Batfleck off the jump, and like I will be the first to admit I was totally wrong. That guy nailed that.
And
role.
I was also kind of in the same boat until someone had pointed out to me, he's like, okay, hold on. Don't think of him as Batman. I'm like, okay. He's like, think of Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. And I was like, oh, I'm in. Like the moment someone broke it to me that way, I was like, okay, no, I get it. So I'm interested to see how they want to take a Robert Pattinson Batman, but
it's Bruce Wayne is weird, but like the Batman part he could do again if it's the more agile, smaller Batman, then yeah, you could do that very easily.
Yeah, but who knows? It seems like again we've talked about this before. It seems like DC is still trying to.
Again, it's like it's less so DC. I think it's Warner Brothers to a certain extent because again, from what I heard, the first couple cuts of Justice League and the first cut of Suicide Squad were actually very good. And then they pivoted and recut the movie, or wanted the movie recut, and added all this stuff in that was unnecessary and made those movies garbage. So
yeah, I've heard similar things.
So
where they,
yeah,
Yeah, it falls into studio, not necessarily studio meddling as much as I would say the studio not knowing how to handle it or what to do with it.
Right.
It is, again, something I think we said a couple weeks ago is that they needed a Kevin Feige. It didn't necessarily have to be someone like Kevin Feige who understands the universe
Right.
to that level, but they needed a person who was going yes or no.
Right.
And when you're doing a multi-film tentpole thing by committee, unless you're Lucasfilm, it seems like...
But they have Kathleen Kennedy, though.
Yeah, they still have like a figurehead, and it's felt like Warner Brothers just never had the figurehead of going yes or no.
Or they have the figurehead, but just no one that cares on the DC side. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a DC-specific person that they have.
So, another casting news, this was a rumor. Apparently on the red carpet, Courtney B. Vance, who was married to Angela Bassett, who was in Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan is going to be back in Black Panther 2.
Yeah.
So, not much to say other than I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm curious to see how they do it. I think he's a great character. I think if you do it flashbacks, it could be very cool.
Flashbacks could be very cool. He's also... Michael B. Jordan is one of those actors where I don't see Marvel wanting to just one and done.
Right.
Like he's a good actor. He's the kind of person you would like to be able to bring back. So I could see them being like, no, he wasn't dead, or because comic books never ever dies. And you could also even argue that we never really saw him die in Black Panther. So
Who knows?
I'm okay with it.
Right.
I'm okay if he comes back, and I'm okay if he doesn't. But it's interesting that
I don't. My only concern is that they would, because he's such a great actor and because he's someone that everyone wants to see, that he'd be forced into the role or forced into the movie, which I don't like.
Yeah, as long as he's not forced into the movie and they kind of like just do a delicate touch.
Right.
I'm for it.
Right.
If they want to make him the big bad evil guy again,
if it feels
too
natural,
much.
if it feels natural and it doesn't ruin sort of the story they're trying to tell because they're trying to force him into it and give maybe like when a character pops like he did in Black Panther 1, like maybe give him a little too much to do, like then that becomes a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final thing is DC has or not DC, Disney. Both start with D. I guess that's fair. Disney has confirmed that they're going to continue making R-rated Marvel films like Deadpool,
Right.
through the Fox banner.
Right.
So that means Deadpool 3 probably still going to be R-rated. Though Deadpool 3, I really want it to be all about Ryan Reynolds trying to get out of that universe and trying to get into the MCU.
Oh, that'd be great. And like the thing that I love was there was a picture that did you see the picture he tweeted out of it's Deadpool but in an Avengers, like he recolored the Deadpool suit and then put the Avengers logo on it. And so I think he put like hashtag confirmed or something like that. And it's great. And like I would love, because Deadpool's the one character that can make that work.
Yes, it's the one character that I think can actually come from the Fox universe unchanged into the MCU,
right,
and have it work and kind of be the joke,
right, and can really bridge those universes together. And I think that'd be really cool. Again, part of me doesn't want to see it because I think the MCU's a special thing, and I think the way it functions right now is very unique and very different, and I don't want it to get muddied up with this other stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a perfect opportunity to do it, and like the character is tailor-made to do stuff like that.
Exactly. It seems like the perfect opportunity, and I kind of want to see like a scene where it's him in an office with Kevin Feige begging him to let him bring Wolverine over.
Right.
Like, please let me bring Hugh. And Feige's like,
great.
no.
It'd be great. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm more curious to see what happens when that deal is done, what they do with X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Well, I think, is D23 this year or...
Yes. I mean, it's every year, but I mean, I don't know.
I thought it was every other year.
No, it's every year. I'm curious, though, what... if the deal's going to be done by then. And if it's going to be done by then with enough time for them to, like, really get an idea and show something or talk about it.
Well, the scuttlebutt around town is that the deal should be finalized sometime next month.
Right.
Then again, scuttlebutt has been the deal will be finalized sometime next month for about 3 months now.
Exactly. It's supposed to be done in January, remember?
Well, it's cleared most of the regulatory hurdles, like the big ones in particular, China, the United States, and the EU. So it's kind of just going through all the processes around the world. But it's kind of just a matter of when, not if.
Right.
So I'm sure Feige and Marvel are sitting down trying to figure out what and how to handle it. I highly doubt we're going to see like X-Men anytime soon in the MCU.
And
I think if anything, we'll see like Fantastic Four first.
I would hope so.
But
because X-Men is such a big, different thing.
Yeah.
And Fantastic Four is a lot easier to integrate.
Plus, at the same time, if you hold off doing X-Men, that's something that you can bring into whatever MCU is 10 years from now.
Right.
That gives you another phase. Right there is
Sure.
the mutants. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's interesting that Disney has basically flat out said that no, Deadpool's not going to be touched, which is smart. I think it's the same ideology that Disney has applied to Pixar, Lucasfilm, and Marvel, which is don't touch the thing that's working.
Right.
So just integrate it into your system. So I think that's what we're going to see. I just hope this means that stuff like Fox Searchlight, the more indie type things that Fox has been handling the past few years, are allowed to continue to exist.
We'll see. I mean, it could be like the what's the adult branch of the adult arm of Disney that they're using for movies? Ambient? Was it Ambient?
No,
What am I thinking of?
it's Touchstone.
Touchstone.
Yeah, so the lot of the theory, people have been using Touchstone a lot, and I think they're right. I think
Right.
Fox is going to become the Touchstone,
That's what I was thinking.
which is, it's fine if it becomes a Touchstone, and if you have Fox Searchlight handle indie, I mean, you're building up a very, very strong portfolio. If you kind of just
I don't think
leave it
I
alone.
don't think anyone's had the portfolio that Disney has at this point.
Yeah.
Of just resources and
Yeah, I think the big shoe everyone's waiting to drop is who gets laid off and who doesn't.
right.
And that's a concern that I've been reading about from people at both companies. This isn't going to be a happy, easy merger for a lot of people.
No.
So that's something I
Well,
think.
it's like the Machinima thing that just happened.
Yeah, like Machinima just shut down.
Saw that coming a mile away, by the way.
Any comments from a former?
I mean, it's sad. Like, I was only there for like what 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
so like and I was working on an esports show, and we were working for I was paid technically by Verizon and Sirius XM Radio, right? I was contracted through them working with Machinima, so I wasn't officially a Machinima person, but my bosses were Machinima people. Because that deal came between those two companies. And Machinima was the producing arm of that. But I think it's sad. I think it's sad because I knew a lot of people that worked there. All very good people, all hardworking, all talented. It just goes to show like the MCN sort of...
Yeah, because this is the second MCN that shut down, I think, in the past 3 months.
Right. Like that we've known it's been dead for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
But like this was sort of the end. Like we're all of them are going to close down very, very soon. And
Yeah.
like if you haven't yet, you should be worried or like looking to jump ship. My advice to you.
Yeah, because Defy shut down.
Right.
But like a lot of like what was interesting with Defy is a lot of their more high profile networks,
Jump
like
ship.
Screen Junkies, they didn't jump ship. They were sold.
Right. Well, yeah.
And so you knew that Defy was having money problems when they're taking their best assets and selling them.
Right. And again, like it goes back to the thing, like the writing was on the wall for this for a long time. Like, okay, not to give details, but like Machinima was signing deals, and I don't think there was any malicious intent to it, and I don't think it was any desperation. I think it was just a misunderstanding or a higher, like a set of higher ups that were unaware of the work or the workload that would go into the deals that they were making. So like for our Machinima deal, for instance, like the amount of hours of content that we had to produce and provide to SiriusXM and Verizon was far beyond what our capacity was as a staff and as a group. And so, yes, in a way, that is a bad deal. But I don't think. But it from my understanding of it, it wasn't a thing of, hey, we're going to promise them this and underdeliver. It's an optimism that, hey, we can actually deliver this. And it's just a misunderstanding of what is possible, right? And once you do that continuously, it creates a problem. It creates a lot of big problems.
It's the joke from Futurama where Fry has to write a script. And
Right.
he's like, it took me 30 minutes to write, so I thought it would take 30 minutes to read.
Yeah.
Like, we're just like a disconnect over how long something actually
Right.
takes to make.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a shame, but you're right. The writing's been on the wall for MCNs for a while. It's kind of one of those.
Well, this brings up the other thing. I think I've talked to you about this before of like MCNs went away. And then now, strangely enough, with Twitch and with kind of esports organizations picking up a lot of streamers, the core idea of an MCN is coming back in full force. So you have the idea of like a team like FlyQuest or TSM picking up streamers, right? And then using that to build their own brand and then help those streamers build their own brands and sort of grow together in that way. Provide support, provide sponsors, provide all that stuff like an MCN would.
I think the problem was MCNs were like exclusively YouTube.
Yes,
for the most part,
and also revenue sharing was not in the favor of the creator.
Yeah.
So this is like the current stuff we have going on with esports orgs, or even something like offline GG, which is like or offline TV. Sorry, which is like or like just friends, right? These are like these YouTube like influencer networks, right? Where you have like 4 or 5 popular streamers living in a house together.
Yeah.
Right. And they stream on their individual channels still and they do all this stuff, but they do stuff together and they hang out together and like a lot of their content intermingles. And so like that.
It builds a community.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And with Machinima, where you had thousands of people signed.
Makes that very hard.
Yeah. You can't really build community. Right. And so. Anyway.
But it's different than when you see what's happening with Rooster Teeth, right? With Rooster Teeth, where you have Kind of Funny, you have Funhouse, you have Sugar Pine, you have all this stuff where it's like a lot of tiny machinimas that work together in correlation.
But they also, it isn't, because here's the thing with the MCN is you need to think of it as like a company overseeing all the people. The difference with like the Rooster Teeth, the Kind of Funnies is the company and the people are the same. So this overhead just doesn't exist.
Right. So like even though Rooster Teeth is sort of the main one that doesn't govern, but like Kind of Funny, Funhouse, Sugar Pine, all the other ones are underneath the umbrella of Rooster Teeth. They all partner together. There's not one more important than the other, and they all cross-contaminate together.
Yeah.
So.
And in some cases, it's more like a partnership. It isn't even. It isn't even like I don't think Kind of Funny is even part of Rooster Teeth, but they work with them a lot.
Well, I know they're officially partnered, and like that's why Kind of Funny merch is on the Rooster Teeth store, right?
Yeah.
Like this is why. So yeah, in that case, I think it is a partnership, but I mean there is a certain level of, I think, kind of like big brother little brother thing going on there. But otherwise, I think that it's more like a two-way street.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead of the one-way street that you said.
That Machinima, right?
Yeah. So let's move on. So Star Wars, because this is.
Of course.
I was sitting here, I'd been debating for a while, going, how long is it going to be before we just have like a Star Wars tag? And the answer is 3 episodes.
Right. So how long have you been going? We've been going for like an hour or 50 minutes so far.
And
so,
here's 2 more hours of content.
Of Star Wars, right? So, okay, can you continue?
So, no, I've been like on a Star Wars kick recently because for Christmas, Kelly and Charles, they got me the Fantasy Flight had done a reprint of the West End Games Star Wars RPG game from the 1980s.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I have been digging through it, and we've been going, hey, maybe we should run something like it with this. And I started doing more research online and found out if you're ever looking at doing any Star Wars RPG tabletop, Star Wars D6, first edition core books have been reprinted, but nothing else has. So you can find all of them online. And so there's so many resources out there that I was just like, oh man, there's so much to go through, that I was just like going like, man, if I'm going to run something with this, I need to read more.
Right.
So I've been on this weird Star Wars kick where I've been reading like a lot of the books I hadn't read yet in the new Star Wars canon, to where I think I read like 4 books in the space of like 2 weeks.
That's kind of awesome.
So I've been on like a Star Wars kick. And so we have a few things to talk about. First off,
We're talking about Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge, apparently in an interview,
The 30-minute
Bob
long
Iger-
ride.
well, not only is it like a 30-minute long ride to do Smuggler's Run, the
Yeah.
wait is expected to be like 4 hours.
Well, yeah, because it's 30 minutes.
Because it's a 30-minute long ride. But here's the crazy thing. The marketing budget for Galaxy's Edge apparently is like somewhere between $0 and $1.
Well, they don't need to.
And that's exactly their whole thing. They're like, we don't think we need to advertise it. Bob Iger apparently in an interview joked, he's like, yeah, I might just tweet that it's open. And have that be like the whole marketing thing, because they don't feel like they need to.
No.
And they're right. Like, I'm saving up to go.
Right. Like, and the thing is, like, so I'm a big Disneyland person. So, like, I can walk that park in my sleep. So for me, like, Galaxy's Edge is something that I followed, and like I'm the guy that watches the drone footage of like people.
Yeah, I've been
like,
watching the drone footage too.
You know, like, you watch drone footage, or like I think they have aerial shots that someone took the other day of like I guess a plane had flown over the top of it and like had taken aerial shots of like what's going on. So you can see like they've built the Millennium Falcon, like it's in there. Like you can see like real detailed stuff of what they have done right now, and I'm super excited for it. It's gigantic. Rip Toontown, but like whatever, no one went to Toontown. Fuck Toontown. So then I'm super excited. It's awesome. It's great because my dad worked for Vaughn's and for the grocery stores for years, right? And just recently retired. Jenny works there now, right?
Yeah.
As a manager. And so for their local union night, they all the union rents out Disneyland from like 8 or from like I think 6 o'clock till, and they keep the park open late till like 1 o'clock. And so for that period of time, the only people in that park are the union workers. so like for me, when we went a couple years ago before Samantha was born, was the last time we went, because I'm not gonna like go to Disney without her. So before she was born, it got to the point. So have you been to like Space Mountain before?
No, I think we discussed this where like the one time I've been to Disneyland, because yes, I live in Los Angeles and I've still only been to Disneyland once.
You got to go, man. Like you gotta go.
Space Mountain was closed.
Okay,
the one
so
time I went.
So on that night, if anyone's been to Space Mountain, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. There's like a long winding pathway, and then you end up getting into a room, which is like their loading bay. And so it's stairs around that loading bay, and it usually takes you about, depending if it's a busy day or not, it takes you about an hour to 2 hours to even get into that room. And then once you get into the room, then it takes like 20 minutes from that point.
Yeah.
Again, remember, Space Mountain's one of those popular rides there. It's still popular on that night. On that night, it got to the point where we could ride Space Mountain, run out of the building, and run straight into the building.
Oh, damn.
So, like, just through the windy path, and then into the building without hitting the line.
So I'm guessing that's the one you're going to try to do all of the.
Oh yeah, so
stuff.
we've already agreed that like when that Union Night comes, we're buying a shit ton of tickets and then going to Galaxy's Edge the entire time. So I'm super excited.
I've been planning gonna do a Disneyland trip for Galaxy's Edge.
Here's the question: how long do you think before it's like it's safe to go and like I will have a good time?
My current plan.
Is it a year?
I don't think I could wait that long.
Okay.
That's the real thing.
Sure.
Yes, a year might be safe, but who are we kidding? I'm gonna go before that. I am waiting for September, October.
Okay,
like
kids
are back in school. People aren't on vacation. I'm just gonna take like a
weekday.
I'm thinking about it.
Well, you have to.
Yeah,
you couldn't go on a weekend. There's no way.
And I might take a vacation day and go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's every way everyone is talking about it. It's going to be crowded for a long time, and you hear the length of the Millennium Falcon ride and all that stuff. It's just like, okay, this is going to be, if you're doing Galaxy's Edge, that's all you're doing at Disneyland. So like I said, I've only been to Disneyland once. It was like a decade ago. I was in high school. I wasn't even living in LA at the time. I have no plans on my Disneyland trip to go to anywhere in the park that isn't Star Wars, just because I know I'm going to want to spend all my time and do everything in Galaxy's Edge. And that might take 2 days.
Right.
And I can do the rest some other time.
Right.
I've done Pirates of the Caribbean before. Admittedly, it's a distant memory, but I can always, like, I live close enough, I can go whenever.
Like, I have a friend that bought tickets or is planning on going the opening day, but not going to Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, no.
Is going to the regular park.
Oh, exactly.
It's going to be completely empty.
Yeah, everyone's going to be going to Galaxy's Edge. You could probably get Space Mountain 3 times in an hour.
Right.
So, no, I am stoked about it. There's going to be tie-in comics, a tie-in novel, and if you've read any of the Thrawn books, because they've been Thrawn Alliances takes place on the same planet.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this is Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah,
like I was
it's
reading
awesome.
that book.
I'm very
like,
excited.
So they're doing, I think, a very smart rollout. Like I don't think they need to. They don't need to market because the fan base is already like chomping at the bit.
Yeah, everyone's super excited. Again, like we're looking at drone footage at this point. Like it's not. Everyone's super pumped.
It's they don't like. He's right. Bob Iger's right. He just needs to put out a tweet going, "It's open," and they're fine.
And again, like for anyone that's kind of doubting it, go look at the footage. Go look at the aerial shots. It's gigantic. It is massive.
I haven't looked at aerial shots in a couple of months. I think I'm going to probably do that.
Oh, this came out. This came out a couple weeks ago of like the shot, like literal shots of what they have, and it's done. It's flat out done. They're literally putting on final touches. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I can't wait.
Right.
That's gonna be something where my normally silent Instagram is gonna be crazy.
Yeah,
because I'm gonna be actually taking pictures for a change.
Right. I mean, it's gonna be incredible. So I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
So one other thing before we go into some Star Wars game news, we've talked about this. Like, I'm sure if you follow us on Twitter, which, given our viewership, there's a good chance. You and I had a conversation a while back about doing a Star Wars marathon.
Yeah.
Of everything.
Yes.
But not necessarily everything. We would limit ourselves on Clone Wars and Rebels to the essential episodes.
Sure.
So here's kind of something I just want to put out for us to do at around a certain day in May.
Okay.
I think what we need to do is come up with our own individual lists of what we think are the essential Clone Wars and Rebels episodes, and share them.
Oh, okay. So not just non-filler, but like
kind of. If we were to come up with an abridged version for people who were interested in seeing Clone Wars and Rebels, but didn't want to watch every episode, just have the essential stuff, I think we should have a list and we should share that with everyone.
I'm terrible at this because to me, if it's not filler, it's essential, right? So like I'm the person that like when people are like, should I watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And I'm like, yes. The first half is really tough to get through, but the second half is fantastic and it's great from there. And like, well, can I just start at the second half? I was like, no. The first half helps you learn who these characters are and builds them and then tears them down in the second half. Like, that's the whole point. Like, it doesn't hit you as hard in the second half if you don't watch the first half. And so, like, to me, if it's not canon, or if it's canon and it's not filler, it's necessary.
It's necessary. So I think basically we're going to have to each come up with our own list and compare them. So in a couple months, around a certain May date that we're broadcasting, I say we need to come down and compare our lists and share them with the audience.
I'm in.
So keep an eye out for our essential episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels. But moving on with more Star Wars, because it's you and me, there's always more Star Wars. Disney is evidently happy with EA and their Star Wars output. And apparently the comment Bob Iger made was Disney doesn't do games well, so they're glad that they have a publishing partner that does games.
Right.
And they're happy with it.
Sure.
I don't know how I feel about that, because I get... First off, I get where they're coming from, and there's a second thing where Polygon wrote a piece when the whole hoopla of EA should lose their license started coming up as a topic a few weeks ago. They wrote a very in-depth thing about why other independent publishers and developers might not actually be interested in a Star Wars license, and it basically came down to you give Disney too much money and there's not enough profit to be made in it.
Sure.
And there's no guarantee it's going to be a success. Plus, they're like with tie-in games,
right,
they can often be hit or miss. But everyone is feeling really good off of Spider-Man 4, or not Spider-Man 4, but Spider-Man.
Yeah, for PS4.
For PS4, that everyone's like, why can't we get that with Star Wars? And their answer was, do you really think someplace like Rockstar is going to make a Star Wars game?
Right.
When they don't have control over it. And I think that might be why we're stuck with EA and might be stuck with EA for longer, is EA...
Right.
Well,
we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know the exact details of the deal, right?
Yeah.
So like again, like that comes to your point of like we don't know, right? But the thing with Marvel, and Insomniac's talked about it, and like everyone that's worked on Spider-Man talked about it, of like how open Marvel was to like them changing the story and them changing the canon and to them really getting to play
to make their own Spider-Man,
right?
And you won't get that with Star Wars,
no,
because everything that is Star Wars branded now has to be run through the Lucasfilm Story Group, and if it has a story element, it has to be canon.
Right. And I think it has, like, comic books and comic book characters give you that leeway of like, hey, this is just a spin-off, or like this is a story, like this is a different thing. Star Wars really, especially now with the cleanup of the canon and like the EU stuff, like this is really where they've kind of cracked down the most. And so yeah, you can't really have that kind of stuff.
Because that made me start thinking about it too, because one of the developers I follow a lot, Paradox, they make a lot of the grand strategy games like Crusader Kings and all that. And I remember at one point someone's like, you know who would be great with the Star Wars license? Paradox. And I was like, what would they do? And I think that's the other problem, is you have developers who we might all be like, oh man, these developers are great, they should do a Star Wars game. You run into the problem is, does that developer really want to make a Star Wars game?
Right.
And that's, I think,
like I can name you 4 or 5 developers off the bat that could do great Star Wars games, but like, are they interested? Do they want to spend time? Like, do they want to spend the amount of time and money and resources to do that? Like, it's not easy to make a Star Wars game.
Yeah.
And to have it up to the level of that people are looking for, right?
And Polygon's argument was, they're like, yeah, BioWare could have easily made Anthem a Star Wars game, but if you don't make it a Star Wars game, you control the license and you can do whatever you want with it going down the road. So that means that as a developer, even EA on some level doesn't have an incentive to make everything Star Wars.
Right.
So...
But again, it goes back to the thing of like... when you don't have the license, you have full control. Like there's no risk in Disney just coming down and saying like, yeah, no, kill that.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you put in all this time and resources into something and want it to be a living game or something that travels for a long, long time, then you just run into the idea of like, oh, they can just come down and take it away from us.
Yeah, it could just be gone in a moment,
and like we just lost everything, right? So you bet the farm, and like no one but EA has the wherewithal to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Activision, maybe,
but Activision's so in their buckets, right? So like Blizzard, Call of Duty, Skylanders,
like they have the resources, but they don't.
Right, they're set. They're good.
They're good. So.
And then EA's sports division, like Madden division, FIFA, do so much money that they can take a lot of risks elsewhere.
Yeah.
Where they're not gonna have a problem. And like especially now with like Apex, right? Like Apex is gonna make them tons of money.
And so I think that's gonna be the thing, is EA is gonna have the license, they're gonna have it for a while, because unless Disney and Lucasfilm start doing it in house,
right?
I don't think it's gonna ever. It might be something that, as much as we don't like it, it's gonna get renewed with EA. Oh. Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I think that it's not going to leave anytime soon.
No.
And even when it's up for renegotiation, given how things have performed, EA might be able to negotiate a better deal.
Right.
So in that case, both parties don't really have an incentive to look the other way.
Sure.
So, final note, EA has confirmed, though, that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order will be coming out in the fall. So we are going to get, finally, a third Star Wars game. So,
and I will say Apex Legends gives me a lot of
Yeah, that's
goodwill towards like I'm thinking that game's gonna be awesome.
So speaking of James, let's switch to games. So Apex Legends, it's right there at the top.
I keep talking about it and like
games.
I keep talking about it and yeah.
No, it was weird. I was on Polygon, I think Tuesday or Wednesday.
So did you when did you catch the wave? Like
it was one of those things where I saw the tsunami
Yeah.
from beginning to end, and the entire time I was like, where the hell did this come from? Because I remember like Apex, like it was almost like there was no fanfare, no announcement, no one had any idea this thing was coming. All of a sudden I hear a thing, Apex Legends being put out for free, and everyone's like, oh my god, EA put out something for free, and it's by the Titanfall developers, and they're the guys doing Star Wars Fallen Order. Okay, I'll check it out. And then all of a sudden it's like the next day it's like 10 million people have already downloaded it and started playing. And then the day after that, like, here's your guide to get started in Apex Legends. I'm like, wait, did this just become the next Fortnite?
So
it was just like one of those ones where like in the space of like 3 days, I was just like, okay, this went from being a new thing to the thing.
So spoilers. I was invited to an event. I forget, like a week or so ago. I didn't go, but I had a lot of friends that went, and basically it was Respawn showing off Apex Legends and being like, hey, this is coming out soon, like be aware, this is coming out soon, right? And so everyone that played it loved it, and I was like kind of not on the hype, and because again I was invited but I didn't go, and so I was like, okay, well, whatever. And so rumors started coming out of like, hey, it's Apex Legends, it's based in the Titanfall universe, it's a battle royale game coming out for free, blah blah blah, right? And so that came out a couple days before it launched. Jason Schreier broke that story from Kotaku, and so I was like, okay, cool, like it sounds great, whatever. And boom, okay, hey, it's live. Okay, great. And then I downloaded it. I played one game, and I was like, oh my god, this is everything I wanted, right? Like, and
it's so good. Like, admittedly, I've only, like I told you this earlier, I've only got about 30 minutes into it,
right.
And we'll go into my whole personal issues with the game in a bit. But immediately, I was like, holy crap, this is really like I was not caught off guard, but immediately impressed by the level of polish,
right,
and just how smooth everything was. Sure. I was just like, okay, I can see myself playing this a lot.
So it runs on a modified engine from Titanfall 2. So I don't know if we've discussed this. I think I've tried to convince you before that Titanfall is one of the most important shooters in the last decade.
I don't think we've ever talked about it. It's like Titanfall is this weird shooter that whenever someone talks about it, they have nothing but praise,
right.
But it just never quite clicked.
Well,
yeah.
What killed Titanfall 1 was that it was a PC and Xbox One exclusive, and that was when Xbox One first launched and was not popular.
Not good.
So that was a big deal. And then when Titanfall 2 came out, I think the number 2 just kind of scares people.
Well, I also heard that it came out and then like the next week,
it was
Battlefield
and Battlefront and Call of Duty. So it's sandwiched between very big titles, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
So it kind of died on its own. For people that don't know though, so like the history of Respawn, it's kind of interesting. So Vince Zampella was the head of Infinity Ward when Infinity Ward was killing it with Call of Duty. So like Modern Warfare 3 or Modern Warfare 4, so Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 2, and sort of what the golden age of Call of Duty was, like when it really broke out and like what everyone considers to be like sort of the birthplace of the modern shooter, right?
Yeah.
Or at least the modern multiplayer shooter, right? So those games were made by Infinity Ward with Vince Zampella at the head. And so there was a big legal debate or legal thing between Activision and Call of Duty and Infinity Ward. I'm not entirely sure the details. There's a lot to it. And
I don't, the few times I've looked into it, like it's almost like a lot of those details are still under seal.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about it. Like no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to know. The point of it is that Infinity Ward and Call of Duty stayed with Activision, and then Vince Zampella and the majority of his team, if not all of them, went and formed a new company called Respawn, which again made Titanfall, had success, and then now, so this is in the Titanfall universe. There's no Titans in it, but it's in the Titanfall universe. It uses the same guns, same gunplay. So me as a Titanfall player, I was like totally in. Cool, these are guns I know, these are gameplay I know, like I'm in. And you jump in there, and it uses it's like they cherry picked the best parts of all the battle royale games, and we're like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, and then like put them in one game, right? And it's awesome. And so I remember we talked about a couple weeks ago of how Blackout is in my opinion, the best battle royale version of battle royale, right? And like debating, we were talking about whether or not I could go free to play, right? This literally took elements of Blackout, and like it is what Blackout should be, but it's free.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's free. The loot distribution works in a way that is like Blackout, where it's very fair with the way it distributes loot, and it's very easy to find loot and continue looting throughout the map and feeling like you're making progress. And at the same time, it has an attachment system like it does in PUBG, but it takes away the complexity and adds in Fortnite simplicity. So like in Fortnite, have you played like battle? Like if I'm talking about this stuff, you know,
I've played battle royales very briefly, but I've followed them enough to where I know how it works.
So like really quickly, like Fortnite, when you find a gun, the gun is colored, right? So it's either white, green, blue, purple, or gold, yellow, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And those are the rarities and determine strength or power, right? So and it's the gun, right? So like if you find a blue gun, cool, okay. Oh, purple one. Okay, I'm gonna pick that up instead, right? Same, or depending on weapon type, right?
Yeah.
So like whatever depends on what your preference is or whatever you want, right? PUBG does something different where it's you pick up guns and then you find attachments and then you can put on different attachments in different places and whatever, and it adjusts the gun in different ways,
Yeah.
stability or you know rifling, things like that, scopes, different stuff, handles, grips, things like that, that improve the gun's performance, right? So a lot of your looting in PUBG is all attachments or not so much guns, but like attachments, ammo, and stuff like that, right? Really like sort of the extra stuff on top of the gun. Apex does the same thing as PUBG, where you find the gun, great, and it has 4 attachment slots. So you're not in a menu equipping them and putting them in a thing. Once you pick up an attachment, it automatically attaches to the gun and fills one of those slots. So like you have like shotgun will have 3 slots where it's like grips, stability stock, and like scope, right? So like so one of them would be extended mags or whatever it is, right? So it has the specific spot or like slot for that attachment to like slot into, right? Now the cool thing is that in PUBG, while those attachments you really have to think for yourself like what I want, and like there's no real one that's better than the other. And same thing goes here for well, kind of for scopes. It really depends on like what you want as a scope, right?
Yeah.
Like, what you're comfortable with. But the attachments in Apex are all colored. So they go white, blue, purple, yellow. They get rid of the green that Fortnite has. So really, you can really see at a glance of what is the best piece of like the best thing that you can grab. And when you grab, like if you have a blue extended mags or if you have a blue extended magazine in your attachment in your gun, and you find a purple one, that purple one automatically takes the place of the blue one.
So basically, they simplified the attachment system.
There's that's great. There's a really cool recovery and respawn mechanic that I won't get into details because it's kind of complicated. And then like there's a really great in-depth ping system. So like when you're playing with teammates, they made it.
That was something I was when I was doing like the training mode. I was like, holy crap, you can ping like everything.
Yeah, and the thing is like they're all context sensitive.
Yeah,
and so it's really useful. Like you don't have. That's why I love, and the thing that you were talking about of like not wanting to work with teammates or like having bad experiences online with teammates. Right. The thing with Apex is like. First, the ping system makes it so easy to communicate. You don't need to communicate with a microphone. You can just communicate with those pings, and it works perfectly fine and seamless. And because it's such a heavy focus on team play, and like team play is so important in that game, that more so than any other battle royale I've seen, right? Like PUBG maybe, but like Apex doesn't even have a solo mode. Like you have to go as 3s.
Yeah.
And so like with the focus on team play, you're really playing. If you're playing Apex, you want to work as a team. So like people on there are willing to work, willing to teach you, willing to like do my first couple of games. The guy was like, "Let me walk you through this whole thing." Like I played in beta. Like let me walk you through this whole thing. And like really walked me through the game. And, like taught me a lot.
Yeah, because I only played really briefly.
Yeah.
In matchmaking,
I haven't had
within like 5 minutes.
Right, but I haven't had a bad experience yet, which is crazy because I played a ton.
Because the thing I mentioned to you was one of the reasons why I had been leery about stuff like that is I haven't really played multiplayer shooters since like Halo 3.
Sure.
So it's been God, like a decade. But one of the reasons why I stopped communicating was you would always get teammates who wouldn't listen, who wouldn't communicate well, to the point, or would just be abusive if you weren't quite sure what was going on. Or in objective maps, they wouldn't play the objective and they would get mad that you were. It just to the point where I just started muting chat. To where unless I was playing with a friend, I wouldn't have my microphone on or anything. To where the moment I'm like, oh man, I have to be teamed up with someone, I'm like, I'm leery. But one of the first things I noticed was I never felt, even though I played briefly, I never felt harped on for being new.
Right. And like the thing, again, with the ping system, it makes it so easy of just like, I can ping something, I can clearly see it on my map.
Yeah.
Like if I have questions, I can ask or I can type or like I can kind of figure it out. Because Battle Royale as a format is not a hard game to know how to play. Like it's last man standing, you loot around, you find whatever, right? Stuff like that. But it's little things, right? It's little things that they do. Like so when you kill someone, in Fortnite when you kill someone, or PUBG when you kill someone, or well, PUBG when you kill someone, they drop and then you have to go to their backpack and loot their backpack, right? Fortnite when you kill someone, all their stuff explodes and then it's just on the floor, right? So all their stuff, it's kind of messy. It's hard to see what's going on. So I like the bag system, but I don't like that I have to go in there to see what it is and I'm stuck in a menu. What Apex does that's great is when you kill someone, they drop a box. So it's like PUBG, but that box is colored with their highest piece of gear.
So you know.
So I know exactly, like if it's glowing purple, I know that there's an epic item in it that I can grab. Right? If it glows yellow, like I definitely want to go there. If it doesn't glow at all, then I probably don't have anything in there. Right? I'll still check and scroll through really quick, but like normally they won't have anything in there. Right? So it's very easily at a glance. Like it's everything you want in the other battle royale games have done great, but it's stripped out all the fat and kept everything in there and put everything in there that's kind of innovative and mixed things together to make it great. Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 game so far that I've played.
One of the things I found interesting is, I think it was this morning, so it might have hit their website last night, but Polygon wrote a piece where they were going, Apex Legends is becoming so big, I wonder if EA realizes they might have shot themselves in the foot, because now they have this big game everyone's playing. Anthem's out in a couple weeks. This might eat into Anthem. And the big PUBG version for, I think, Battlefield 5 was supposed to hit in March. And they're like, well, now you have the free version of Battle Royale that is really, really good. This might eat into Anthem sales, and it's going to kind of... it negates the other Battle Royale version of the other game you have.
I think it's sad because I think Anthem's really different. I think Anthem might put more in like a Destiny kind of vibe. And the gameplay is extremely different from what I've played of Anthem. I don't know how much it's changed. Last time I played it was at E3, so I might have changed quite a bit. But from what I did play beta, so no, it hasn't changed too much. But the game is a ton of fun. It's just very different styles. It's like the thing of a lot of people were talking about Apex Legends versus Fortnite. And like, because again, Apex had 10 million players in 72 hours, which took Fortnite 2 weeks to grab attention. Which I think it's different because that was sort of the beginning of the Battle Royale wave.
It was,
so like, of course there's more people now, so it's going to be easier to grab that 10 million. And a lot of people were saying that like everything Apex does, I think I saw someone say the other day that everything Apex does, or everything Fortnite does, Apex is better, which I think is false. I think is a bad statement because I think there's things that Fortnite does differently. I think they're just different games, right? It's like, it's very much Here's the Storm, League of Legends, Dota 2, right?
Yeah.
They're very different games. And like
same genre, very different
Very
games.
different. And so depending on what you're into, like, yes, Apex is everything I want and everything a lot of like competitive shooter people want because it feels like old school Call of Duty and it feels like Titanfall.
But then you run into the question of, will it run on my phone?
Right. And will it run on my phone and will my 7-year-old nephew want to
exactly
play, right? Like it's very different and very different groups that they're targeting.
Honestly, the only loser in this is PUBG.
Right. Because yes, exactly. Because Apex directly cuts into PUBG.
Yeah. And
so I'm sad about it because I think Bluehole as a company are pretty good. I just think that they didn't polish their game enough.
Yeah.
Like the game should be way further ahead than it is now. They went into infrastructure of other things first, which I understand. It's completely understandable. Like, yeah, get your esports scene going, get all this stuff going, up your community team and get all this stuff and make sure that you're getting on different platforms. That's great. But man, that game's not polished at all. And like when you play,
it looks like it's still an alpha.
But when you play Apex Legends, you're like, oh, this game's done.
Yeah.
But it's not, because there's tons of bugs. And that was the other thing too that's great, is their community management is fantastic. And it's Respawn, and it's that background of old school Call of Duty, and like they're in the subreddit. They're in like Apex Legends subreddit. Boom, this more like I think yesterday, there's a list of like, hey guys, or no, Friday. It was, hey guys, we're leaving the office. Have a fun weekend. But here's a list of bugs that we've noticed or things that you've brought to our attention that we'll be working on really hard on next week. Like, here's all list of what we got, right? And like, hey, if there's anything, like we're out of the office for the weekend, but like, here's a list of what we have so far. If there's anything you run into over the weekend, just drop it in this thread.
Drop it in this thread,
and we'll take a look in the morning or Monday morning, whatever, blah blah. And then like, and then yesterday the servers went down, and they were like updating every 20 minutes of like, hey, here's where we're at. Hey,
that's
Xbox is coming back online, but PC's still a little behind. Hold on, give us a second. Like
5-star community team.
Yeah, like dude, they're like every 20 minutes to a half hour on the dot of like, here's an update. Here's where we're at. Like, hey, sorry about this stuff. Here's where we're going. Here's blah blah blah, and like all this stuff. And you got to think they were expecting probably people, but they weren't expecting this amount of people. And so them for like putting out calmly putting out these fires is like crazy.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm probably gonna sit down and play it a bit today.
Do it, man. Let me know. I'm
yeah.
playing when you're home. Drop in with you.
Some other news to move on from Apex Legends. This is something I found very interesting. Now, one of the big things on like iOS that's been bad is Apple's done not a good job with like Game Center.
Sure.
It's just bad. Microsoft apparently is planning to expand Xbox Live to where not only will it be on Xbox, but you can link it to your computer, your iOS device, Android device, and even Nintendo Switch.
Right. So that's a little bit of a misconception in the kind of wording of it.
Yeah. It's not Xbox Live per se, but it's the account.
Right.
Where you can have it be the games on those platforms can be tied to your account.
Right. So it's mainly stuff like crossplay games. So Fortnite, PUBG, or not PUBG, Fortnite, Rocket League, Minecraft for the Switch, right? So like right now on the Switch, I can log into my Xbox account. It's been like that since launch of Minecraft for Switch, where I can log into my Xbox account, and because Minecraft's a Microsoft owned product, I can log into my Microsoft account and get my save data from the cloud, from Microsoft Cloud, to play on my Switch.
Yeah,
right? And so like that basically what they're saying is that that system is going to transfer over to these other games that are also crossplay.
That are not only that, but they're not limiting it to Microsoft exclusives.
Right.
Which is
the important
which
fact.
is an important thing, which I think that's great.
Yeah.
Like I saw that and I'm like, you know what? I have no problem with this.
Yeah.
Like I would love to be able to have just one, because like you have my Steam account, I have my GOG, I have my Origin, I have all these. It'd be nice to just be logged in on Xbox and see everything.
Yeah.
I know that's not going to happen, but I applaud the effort.
Yeah. It's giving you the option, right?
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
And if that means third-party developers can take advantage of it, and that makes it easier to find people, find your friends, that's great.
Yeah.
I applaud the effort, and I wish more companies would think that way.
Right.
And that's something that I think is interesting, is that Microsoft, after the whole just debacle with the initial Xbox One release, has been really good about building community.
It's so funny, and I think we had this discussion when it first came out of like, to me, Xbox One was 100% on point, and like Microsoft saw the future of where the industry was going.
They want to be the Microsoft of games,
and they
were not Microsoft, the Netflix of games.
Well, they saw the market. They were like, hey, Xbox digital only, or like digital licenses, like this is the future, baby. Like this is where we're going, and everyone gave them so much shit. And the thing that I was saying was like, if they had did that now,
they'd be fine. I remember you and I, when it first happened, you and I were both like, because we read through it and we were like, not only are they right, the problem was they did a horrible job explaining it.
Right. But they're 100% right. It would have helped them in the long run if they went through with their initial plan. But them backtracking on their plan, Sony punching them in the mouth, really was just killed their entire momentum and like ruined that launch. Like that's why for the next generation, for the next wave of consoles, I think Microsoft has a huge leg up. And like the way they're buying studios like fucking candy, like they're going to be set up and ready to go.
And yeah, it's one of those cases where I feel like Microsoft has really embraced the idea of embracing the community.
Right.
So yeah, again, like I applaud the effort. I'm glad they're doing it because anything that breaks down artificial barriers in terms of building a community around a game is a plus.
Sure.
So bravo to Microsoft on that one.
Definitely.
Final note: did you hear about the concert in Fortnite?
Yeah.
10
I was in there for a
people
little bit.
attended a concert in Fortnite during the Super Bowl, and the only reason I wanted to highlight that was because it reminded me of. I know I've talked to you about this. I don't know if we talked about it on stream. How I used to and sometimes still dabble in Lord of the Rings online.
Right.
They had concerts first.
So
In-game
again, like
concerts in Lord of the Rings.
this gets back to the thing of like Apex Legends versus Fortnite, right? Like they just go so differently. Like you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't.
Apex Legends,
playing
right?
Apex Legends for the brief that I did, I could not see it building that. Whereas Fortnite, from what I know of it,
Yeah, you can do that
You can
easily,
totally do
right?
that.
Like so.
I
whatever.
just thought it was
Kudos.
cool that they had
Kudos to
done
them.
that. So
They're building very different communities, and I think like people that try to keep trying to put them against each other is very different.
You know,
very bad.
it's-
Don't do that.
and there's space for both.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't shoehorn people into like one game. People can
Yeah.
like multiple things.
Can like multiple versions, multiple games in the same genre.
Yeah, I play a ton of I coach League of Legends, and I work in League of Legends, but I play a ton of Dota. Also, Dota Auto Chess is actually like god tier. Like that's awesome. So continue.
Speaking of work, James, let's switch it up to esports. It's got its own tag.
Oh, hey,
Don't you feel special?
I do.
So Overwatch League
Yeah,
starts on the 14th, so that's this Thursday.
right.
And I know we've talked about it. We've touched about it briefly on the stream, but I feel like we just should sit down and discuss our own apprehensions around the Overwatch League.
Sure. So, from a casual fan's perspective, what is your? Before I go off the rails,
Before you go off the rails, from a casual fan perspective, I think the biggest problem Overwatch League has is I can't tell you what's going on half the time. And I'm not talking in terms of gameplay, because I play Overwatch enough to where I know what's going on in the game while I'm watching it. I have no clue how their standings work. I have no clue how their playoffs work, because they seem nonsensical. It's like there's a playoff every 10 games, and they don't really mean anything, but they're not the actual playoffs. It's not the world
Sure.
champion. It's just there's a lot of design in how the system has worked
Right.
that doesn't feel as well thought out or hasn't been well explained,
Right.
to where I feel like a lot of the things that they're doing that I find interesting, like trying to build location-based teams.
Right.
They're trying to ape, professional, like the traditional professional sports. They're trying to mimic, NBA, NHL, and MLB by having a geographically linked team. Like, there's things I find interesting, but it's like their whole structure of the league I find nonsensical.
Sure. I would agree with that.
So, why don't you?
I mean, it's stuff like I don't even know where to start. So there was a lot of concern when it first launched that they were a little too late. They were supposed to launch early 2017, from what I remember, because I remember talking to NGE, Next Generation Esports, was supposed to do their broadcast for it when it first launched, and they pivoted away from that and went to making their own studio, which is the one in Burbank, right?
Yeah.
So that took an extra year for them to do and then launch, right? So then the thing that was interesting was like they struck a little late, right? The iron wasn't as hot as it should have been. Like they probably should have put it back in the forge a
Also,
little longer.
isn't that right around the time that I know PUBG was big, but wasn't Fortnite starting to pick up also around the launch?
No. It was a little later than that. That Fortnite was a little later, but the thing was with Overwatch League is like sponsors were very wary because it's just leagues in general are a little wary. The buy-in was incredibly high to get a spot in the league. So now you're talking about okay, hey, so now for this season, they had a decent first season. They signed a lot of deals. They made money, but their viewership numbers are a little skewed because they had very, very high highs and very middle of the road regular season games.
Yeah.
So like where you look at something like the LCS, their numbers are pretty consistent throughout the entire season, where Overwatch League had very up and down roller coastery kind of season in terms of viewership. So that doesn't bode well, and that makes it very hard to sell monetization in terms to sponsors because they don't know exactly what they're buying from week to week. So it's hard to sort of correlate where like what the times that you're buying in terms of commercial time or like sponsor time. So like a lot of sponsors are wary. I know a lot of them pulled out after season 1. So like they just signed a deal with Coca-Cola. They announced that I think yesterday, a couple days ago. So that should be a huge sponsor for them. So I'm curious to see the details of that. Those will probably come out soon, or at least I'll find out somehow of like what those details are. But I'm not extremely convinced because Coca-Cola has this sort of thing with esports. We'll sign on for like a year and test the waters and see how it goes. Coca-Cola is one sponsor that's very fickle in terms of signing long-term deals.
Coca-Cola's strategy has been for advertising is to advertise everywhere, but they are still experimenting with some digital advertising because they don't, as much as they're willing to advertise everywhere, you're not necessarily going to advertise to a podcast that has a viewership or a listenership that's low.
So Coca-Cola sponsored the Academy series, the Challenger series for League of Legends for a year. Then they did they sponsored that IGN esports talk show for a year. So like they very like dip their toe in, take it out kind of a company in terms of like sponsorships. And so I remember when I was my good friend Dylan Hornbrook was their esports advisor for a long time, and so I got a lot of insight from them of like how they think about it. And so yeah, they're very much like in the realm of like test the waters, and like that's how they run things. So that's concerning that like the big sponsor that they announced for this year is Coca-Cola.
One that might still be just testing the waters.
Right. So like that's a little concerning. They cut a lot, so they hired the best of the best in the industry in terms of production staff, and like their production staff was very, very impressive, and so that's why all of their stuff looked fantastic. And like from a production standpoint, they had one of the cleanest broadcasts you could possibly make. But they let a lot of them go because they were all under freelance. They weren't contracted, or they weren't they weren't official hires. They were freelance contractors.
And in television production, that's basically you go from gig to gig. You don't wait around.
Right. So they weren't offered contracts this year. So a lot of their top talent left and are no longer there. So from what I've seen in the preseason so far, their broadcast stuff is still solid, but it's not nearly as clean. Like there's a little bit of late transitions and like things that you as a casual viewer wouldn't recognize, but like
you and me would pick up on.
Pick up on like, ooh, that camera is like the camera turn is not as clean, the jib shot's a little dirty, like stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of mistakes there. Like esports makeup, so like Mama Rose is probably the most famous esports makeup person in the industry. She did LCS, she did all the Overwatch stuff, she does BlizzCon every year, she does ESL stuff. She's probably the makeup artist in the industry. So they just announced that they weren't brought back either for Overwatch Season 2.
Sounds like they're probably having major budget cuts.
Right, so there's major budget cuts, but they are also expanding the league and adding new teams. They redid their entire merchandising thing. They got new jerseys. They got a ton of new merchandising stuff, like less generic stuff. The first season was very generic and very kind of blah. So now they've gone a little more in on like cool T-shirts and like cool designs and things like that, which is a little different. And on top of expansion, the expansion cost to buy in was more than it was initially. And after a fledgling season, they're really capitalizing on the FOMO of like people that just want to get in. Which is smart, but again, like what are you doing? Kind of begs the question. So I'm concerned there. After this season, so their plan for season 3 is for all the teams to play not at the Burbank studio, but to play from their home cities.
Or like have like it sounded like they were still trying to figure out where exactly they do it. It might be like It sounded like they were looking at even doing like a roving tournament.
No.
Or did that change?
Oh, you don't know. So their idea is to have it like a professional.
Yeah, I thought that was the end goal, but they were trying to do that next season.
Yeah. So their next season goal is to have all of the teams play from their home base and then have them fly out to wherever, like home and away games, like essentially have them on the schedule. So like if the LA Valiant have to play the Chengdu Pandas or whatever, they have to fly to Chengdu.
Well, and here's the crazy thing about that, because that was the thing I had been wondering, like how they were going to handle.
Right.
First off, that's way sooner than I thought. Secondly, you kind of need to, like, how's your structure going to work? Because first off, the structure that they have in terms of how games are played, like how many games are played on a weekend, like, and how the standings all work, it's like it's not going to work the way it's working now if you're going to start doing this thing where teams are based in their different places.
Geographical locations?
Yeah. So you're going to have to rethink your structure. Like the entire structure of both gameplay, playoff, and all that isn't going to work if you're going to be geographically based.
Right. So that's a concern. That's another concern that I'm having, right? Also, so Blizzard just shut down the Heroes of the Storm kind of pro scene. So like that... They haven't shut down the pro scene, but like there's no longer a championship for Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, there's no longer a championship for Heroes of the Storm. They canceled like Heroes of the Dorm, which was the college.
They never officially announced that for the year.
Yeah.
So
like it got canceled.
Yeah. So it just was it was not renewed as an event. So Victor Goosens, the CEO and the founder of Team Liquid, had a great statement basically saying like game companies have a right to do whatever they want with esports, but they have a responsibility to not treat it like a marketing thing, because it's not just a marketing thing.
Yeah.
There are careers and people that rely on this infrastructure and this sort of system to be in place, and so when you just take it away,
you can't treat it's not marketing at this point.
Right.
If you're especially at the point they're at, it stops being a marketing thing and becomes an actual league.
Right.
Which means you need to make sure that the players are taken care of, that contracts are fair, that
the teams are taken care of.
That teams are taken care
you
of.
can't just disband a thing.
Yeah.
So it's tough, right? So Liquid pulled out of Heroes of the Storm and like made that statement, very good statement. Go read it if you need to. And so it's tough because like where are these budget cuts coming from? What's going on? So the big news came that like Activision's CFO, I think, got a $15 million bonus, and then they're also cutting I think 80 to 100 employees. Like they're cutting a lot of people. What is happening? Where are we going? We still don't know. We know that they're making changes to the Hearthstone tournament format, so we don't know what's going on there, if there's going to be a world championship for that, or if they're killing that as well and they're going to go all in on Overwatch, or like what's going on with the StarCraft WCG. Like we don't know. So it's all muddled, it's all weird, and like I think they're going all in on Overwatch, and I think that the way it's progressing now, it's gonna continue to have middling results, and not be like, I think they were looking at Overwatch to carry them to the future, and I don't think that right now it has the momentum to do that, which is scary.
Yeah, it is scary. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, where an analyst was saying that given the prevalence of these free games like Fortnite or now Apex Legends, or these where people don't necessarily have to pay to play the game, but you can buy things within the game, like skins and all that. Wondering if that isn't going to be the future of Overwatch. And I'm wondering well, first off, it should be. I think that might also be, in some ways, Overwatch League's last hope, because here's the thing. I can follow now what goes on in Overwatch.
Right.
Because I play it.
Right.
But when I first was like watching some pro Overwatch stuff, because I'm interested, I think it's a fascinating space. This is kind of, in some ways, one of the interesting things about the future of content is you don't necessarily have to have the 20 million viewers to validate the existence of your like sporting event.
Sure.
So when I first watched Overwatch League stuff, this was actually pre-Overwatch League. It was just Overwatch Pro scene before it developed the league. I hadn't played Overwatch yet. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't tell you what was going on.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately going to be their biggest problem, is if the audience you already have playing the game isn't tuning in to watch now, you need to build that audience and make it bigger so you
Right.
can get more people
But, I mean,
watching
even-
later.
even
But that
then-
might not be that I think might be the last saving hope, but it might not be enough.
No, and I would disagree in terms of like League of Legends. There's a fair amount of people that don't even play League of Legends that watch League of
Well, I
Legends.
think
right?
that's
like and like how many people that watch and the NFL actually have picked up a football, right? Like it doesn't matter. You just have to make it understandable and watchable. And they've done the best they can. They've gotten some amazing talent in terms of broadcasters and again like production people to make sure that it's as watchable as possible. But again, it's a very chaotic thing. It's everything about a team fight in a MOBA and how messy and dirty and quick and crazy that is, on top of a respawn-based close proximity shooter.
Yeah.
Where people are coming in and out at this, like dying, coming back, and running in and out, and it's a continuous cycle.
But that's what I mean by it being harder to watch, because I don't really play League of Legends. I played Heroes of the Storm because I'm, we've talked about this. I'm a bad gamer.
Sure.
I'm going to play the easier one.
Okay.
But watching League of Legends and all that, I can still follow what's going on without necessarily knowing the minutia of the game.
Right.
Whereas with Overwatch, given how it's been broadcast, that didn't quite exist.
Right, and the thing that's scary is for them is like I think they broadcasted it beautifully and the best
did.
that they possibly could, and the fact that it still is hard to follow is concerning.
Yes.
But again, I believe that I don't think Overwatch League is dead or will die anytime soon, but they need to start putting up bigger numbers and bigger viewership numbers and having more of at least sharing in the mind and getting in the mind share of people, right? Like,
Yeah.
And it's tough because of how crowded the esports space is right now, but Overwatch has a big enough following and a big enough name that they can do that. It's just I think they've put too many eggs in the basket for the return that they're going to be getting.
Yeah, it's.
So
I think for
it's a
both
concern.
for both of us, it's not that we hope or expect Overwatch to fail as much as we want them to succeed, and we're worried they're not going to be able to
Right.
succeed to the full extent that they
And
should.
even if they succeed, they have a lot into the system where they need it to not succeed. They need it to like blow it out of the water.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to do that. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But like, I don't see it doing it.
Season 2, simultaneous viewers, 30 million. That's the dream,
No.
and they'll be lucky if it's 100,000.
They'll be lucky if they get maybe if they hit 150K the first week or so.
Yeah. So
Again, I could be wrong. It could swell to like 200, 250, maybe 300, but I doubt it.
yeah, if it doesn't get those numbers though, I think we're going to see even more drastic changes.
Yeah.
But other than that, any final thoughts?
No, I'm good.
All right. James, I think it's time to roll credits. Let's end this scene. So, folks, please like, subscribe, share with all your friends, do all the fancy things like clicking the annoying little bell on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Also, if you aren't watching live, you can also leave us a note at feedback@quality3.net. Yes, I do try to check it every week. I just forgot to do it this week. So, leave a note for some feedback or anything like that. But other than that, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.